Okay, so I think you can probably guess by the title of this video that I'm not exactly thriving this month. So last Monday I got laid off from my full-time freelance job, which is like 75% of my income just gone overnight. And the Tuesday before that, my relationship ended. I'm not going to talk much about the end of my relationship, but there wasn't any drama. There's not any tea to spill. It's just a sad situation, really. My long-term boyfriend is a lot more analytical than I am, and it basically just became clear that closing the distance for our relationship wasn't feasible after I got deported from Istanbul. Just like the visas and everything that we would have to go through for one of us to move to the other's country just became more and more difficult, and we basically just came to terms with the idea that our relationship was not going to work out for logistical reasons, which honestly is like more difficult than the dramatic, painful breakups I've had in the past. It's like when you love someone so much and then suddenly you just don't have anywhere for that love to go. It's sad, and grieving a future that you thought you were going to have is like the worst feeling. But yeah, so just to set the scene, I was broken up with on Tuesday. I spent the week kind of licking my wounds, getting a breakup haircut, which doesn't look that great today because it's raining outside and there's a lot of humidity in my apartment. But yeah, I basically just like went all in on self-care and trying to put myself out there and find my spark again. And then on Monday, the Monday after, so 6 days later, my boss scheduled a ominous meeting, a quick catch up, half an hour in advance for 15 minutes. And it's like, I knew right away that I was getting let go. I just had a feeling. So I texted some of my friends and I told them what I thought was happening. And they were like, no, like you're being worried for no reason. That definitely won't happen. And then I met with my boss, who is my friend, and we've worked together at other publications, so no hard feelings. I know she fought for me to stay, and I'm grateful for her, but she basically told me that they were getting budget cuts and they couldn't afford to keep me any longer. So I went from making a reliable $4,000 a month with them to $200 for that day, because that day that I got let go was my last day, and it hurt. And while I wasn't surprised, I kind of was surprised at the same time, because basically I was a full-time freelancer, which honestly makes it even worse. As a full-time freelancer, it was like I had the structure of working full-time and regular income, but because I was freelance, I didn't get a severance package and I don't get unemployment benefits. So it's like I had worked $4,000 into my budget, and only to find out I will be getting $200 this month. And there's nothing, like there's no severance package, like I said, just nothing. I was surprised to get this news because honestly, I felt like I was a really budget-friendly asset to the company. So I'm not going to mention the company by name, but it was kind of like a counterculture publication that was really popular with Gen X a couple of years ago. And it was bought by a venture capitalist firm. So they're really money-minded. And I was working for pretty cheap. I was basically like outsourced labor living in Canada and especially Montreal, and working for a US company. So I was getting paid for part-time work 4 to 5 hours a day, but I was really working like 7 hours a day, and I was always available on Slack and Asana, basically like a full-time employee who was invested in the company. So in my mind, I didn't think I would be let go because I was like really good value for what they were paying me. And I have been doing this exact work since I was 23, and I'm 33 now. So I was really efficient and really detail oriented. And I really built my personal life and my freelance life around this role. So like I took nighttime French classes instead of morning classes because I didn't want to risk missing anything that came up. Even though I technically was only supposed to be online from 12 p.m. onward till 5, I didn't want to risk having anything come up at like 9 or 10 a.m. when I'm in class and I couldn't get to it. So I do feel kind of surprised that I gave so much value, just from like the perspective of a company that is really focused on money. I don't know. I thought I was making myself pretty valuable, being available all the time. And I know that sounds like kind of a toxic way to work, but because I'm based in Montreal and this was a US-based company, like similar full-time office roles in Montreal would have paid me basically the same. So instead of working a 9 to 5 in an office, I was unofficially working full-time with a part-time salary from this US company. But on the same token, I wasn't that surprised because this is the lifestyle media industry and it's extremely volatile right now. It's like everyone I know is waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time. And like, even if you think of like the most recent Devil Wears Prada movie, the sequel, it was basically about budget cuts and layoffs. So it's like, if Miranda Priestley is experiencing this, why would I be exempt from it? So where to go from here? Basically, I am so tired of having to find the bright side in situations. I feel like this year has been pretty hard between having a house fire, getting deported, getting broken up with, and now getting laid off. I really took my foot off of the pedal in terms of other freelance work. And I know that I had successfully built a freelance business before, but the landscape is so different now that it feels very daunting to have to rely 100% on pitching and writing articles for editors. I love my career, but I'm getting really tired of feeling like it's a house of cards, basically. I just like don't really want to live with that anxiety anymore. As much as I love writing, I do feel like this was a sign that I need to make maybe not necessarily an exit plan, but having alternative careers lined up and ready to go. I will say that waking up in the morning and not having to sign into Asana and Slack has been a huge weight off my shoulders. I haven't experienced a Sunday yet after getting laid off, but I suspect that the Sunday scaries I had will be gone as well. I will be honest, like I didn't have Sunday scaries since I quit my last office job, which was in 2018, and I started getting the Sunday scaries again when I started doing this role. So something that I have learned from this is that I simply do not want to do hourly work that I don't find fulfilling, which sounds like a very privileged thing to say, but I didn't enjoy the content that I was editing. I actually found it to be very similar to my first role out of university when I was 23 years old. It was the same kind of editing work, the same content, and the same sort of like workflow. In fact, when I started this job, I started listening to a millennial optimism playlist as I was working because it really just like took me back to being 23 in like 2015, which at first was great and it made me really efficient at this job, but I just didn't find it fulfilling anymore, especially now that I've kind of changed my ethos. So I was working in the commerce division of this company, which is basically writing roundups and product guides and making affiliate links so that they get affiliate income when people shop from the articles. And that is exactly how I started out of university, and it just doesn't resonate with me anymore as somebody who's frugal and basically has a little soapbox online where I talk about not spending unnecessary money. It just doesn't feel like something that I feel good doing. Of course, I was doing it because it paid me very well and I needed freelance income from somewhere, but I think that this whole experience just made me realize that at least in editorial, working for an hourly rate, you're kind of selling yourself short if you've spent a decade cultivating your skills. If you can do something in 10 minutes and it takes someone else half an hour or an hour, then you're really selling yourself short. So I think for me, the main takeaway is that I need to be, if I end up doing hourly work, I want it to feel fulfilling. And otherwise, like, I'm okay with writing articles that are not my biggest passion, but I don't want to be paid hourly for them because I'm a very efficient lifestyle writer. But yeah, so I feel like I'm oscillating between numb and also very scared. Like I said, I've built a successful freelance writing business before, but that was before. Now things are volatile, work is much harder to come by, and wages are kind of stagnant. So while I will be pursuing freelancing aggressively to try to build back some of my lost income, I've also started diversifying immediately. One of the things that I started doing, which I've mentioned in previous videos, is that I will be taking a TEFL course, which is teaching English as a foreign language. I bought a cheap-ish, it was like $30 course online just to see if I like it and if I can get into it. And if I can, then I will be able to teach English online on platforms like Preply. And somebody in my comments actually pointed out something to me that I had not thought of, and it was that I could teach at a cégep because I live in Montreal. So for those who don't live in Montreal, a cégep is like the school that people here go to between high school and university. So it's like a college, basically. And because I have a master's degree in English and I have quite a bit of experience just writing and being published, I think I could be a good asset as an English teacher at a cégep. And a lot of them in the job description, it says that a TEFL certificate is an asset. So I'm going to work on getting that as quickly as possible. I'm going to start teaching on Preply just to see how I like it. And I'm also going to start taking, I'm going to start going to Toastmasters. As soon as my French class ends in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do Toastmasters every week to try to iron out some of my insecurities and anxiety I have speaking to a group. And I really love this idea, even though I've always valued kind of like working autonomously and being location independent. I would love the idea of having more stable income. I realize that I've studied languages basically my whole life. Like, even when I don't have to, I just end up in a language school. So I feel like I have an inherent interest and experience from the learner perspective that could be useful. And it could also help me as I move forward. If I don't want to stay in Canada, I could get a work visa and work in Istanbul teaching English at a university, or I could get a work visa and teach English or writing at a university in Paris, which is something that I still would love to do one day, move to Paris. So that's kind of my life raft at the moment. It's not overnight income, but I do feel like it's setting me up for an exit path for when freelancing just is not viable anymore. And I think that I would really like it as long as I'm able to get over the social anxiety that I have when public speaking. But I have heard from other people that teaching is very different from giving a presentation, and I hope that's true. I will report back. I'm also using the time to work on some side projects that I'm passionate about. So one of them is polishing my memoir that I wrote about my 3 years in Istanbul and pitching it to agents again. So I worked on that a little bit last week, which felt very fulfilling and would be so cool if I was able to get an agent for that memoir. And then I'm working on another project with my friend Anwar. I don't want to talk about it too much right now, but we are currently working on a pitch deck, and it's something that we're both really excited about. So that kind of like gave me a little bit of dopamine during my difficult past few weeks too. And another stream of income that I'm currently working on is my YouTube channel. I had a goal to just create videos for a year and see what happened, and I actually ended up getting monetized last week, which is so exciting. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I don't even have words for how exciting that was. I was telling my friends, like, last week was not the week that I got broken up with. It was not the week that I got laid off, but it was the week that I got monetized on YouTube. So It's not paying my bills. I think I've made like $15 so far, but it's really a proof of concept and a huge boost in my self-confidence to know that people are resonating with what I'm saying. So thank you so much for that. Honestly, like, it means so much to me that people enjoy what I'm talking about. But yeah, so this is not exactly the summer that I had in mind. I thought I would be paying off a lot more debt. I thought I would be seeing my boyfriend after months of long distance. I thought I would be in a better place, but my friend Anwar pointed out that this is such clear redirection and the universe is kind of winking at me. And even though I'm sad and scared, I'm really going to try to lean into that. So I'm working on all of these projects and I will be starting a serious budget again. So I'm pretty lucky because I have a really low cost of living and I'm very comfortable with living frugally and living on a budget. But I will be kicking it up a notch for sure. I just finished my June budget video, but I've already completely redone it. And I will update you guys along the way, of course. And I don't want this to be taken as like a doom and gloom video. Like, I have a way of kind of spinning negative things into a positive lens. Like, I'm just good at it. And like, I feel like I know deep down that this is a blessing in disguise and things will turn around and work out for me. For now, it kind of sucks. I'm giving myself grace, but I know that it's for the best. So yeah. If you've watched all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and I will see you in the next one. Bye.